Hello, 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 and welcome back to Glamma J. Today vlog is on the dirty word, divorce. Divorce has been such a taboo of discussion. A lot of times it's cited his side or her side or her side and her side or his side or his side. Today's situation is so blended and different that a lot of times we get lost in the verbiage of the word divorce. I can tell you my experiences, what I experienced through the divorce I've gone through. I can tell you the experiences of being a child with a parent going through two divorces, how it affected me and who created my perspective of how life is, if that makes sense. I am going to tell you situations that are ugly. I'm going to put it out there at this moment. I am not the innocent one. It takes two, and I will owe up to what I did incorrectly. There's always two sides of a story, always, and there's always a situation where you should have been there to hear both at the same time, if that makes sense. So the reason why I'm making this vlog, which is vlog 3 on the word divorce, is you see it every day. Back in the day, old school, they just stayed in the marriage and they were miserable, or they slept in different bedrooms or different beds, or their religion. They weren't able to get divorced due to the fact that their religion would not accept them to receive the Eucharist, or they were looked down upon. They wouldn't get divorced. They'd stay in a situation because of their family. You know, you can't get divorced. It will look bad upon our family. So a lot of times a woman or a man would stay in a situation for others when it wasn't healthy for themselves. I stayed in my marriage. I had gotten divorced. It was finalized in 2013. I remarried in 2015. I was married for about 17 years. I stayed in my marriage as long as I did until my kids were a little older. I always made an oath to myself, and I broke that oath, that I would never want to get divorced because of my mother had divorced twice, and I never would want my kids to go through that. Was I wrong? Hi Luna. On that note, yes, I stayed in it for probably the wrong reasons, and when I say the wrong reasons, and it's not because the children are wrong, it's because the children had gone through experiences with their father and I that they should never had to go through. The misery, seeing the abuse that was happening. I am going to be blunt. I'm going to be honest on my perspective of the situation. I'm part of the party of that situation, so I can speak on my terms, and maybe you can relate, and maybe what I've experienced and where I am today will give you some tips or some helpful look like, okay, if Glamma J did it, I know I'll get through tomorrow or today. Growing up and knowing the word divorce was horrific. I still have flashbacks of my father and the fighting between my mother and my father, and seeing him rip keys out of her hand and cutting all of her fingers with the keys. I can still remember the fight that my uncle and my father had on the front porch, and I'm standing at the door with my hands on the door crying, and my friends across the street at the time, you know, the Novaks and the Clarks, you know, they're riding their big wheels up and down the street, and I'm bawling. I remember it was court time, and this memory has always been in the back of my mind, always. But I do remember the day of I think it was the signing or the filing or something that was to face the judge, and I want to say maybe it was about 6, 7. And my father, I can only imagine what demons he was fighting with the alcoholism, with the guilt, with the depression, with the all kinds of things going on inside of him. And then my mother, same thing, not the same, but the frustration, the guilt of tearing the family apart, but doing the right thing. There were so many negative things fighting at these two individuals that sometimes as parents, as you and I, or partners, you try your hardest to make that other person hurt, so you're not hurting as bad. Because there's different levels or steps or stages that you will go through when you go through a breakup or a divorce. Believe me. Future vlogs, I will be covering the different steps and the things that I had gone through, and they were horrific. Horrific. And decisions that I made that weren't really wise decisions. I'm happy to be sitting where I am at because I made some very unwise decisions because I was so grief-stricken that I wasn't thinking clearly. And that happens. Depression hits you so hard, or fear, you don't make rational decisions. Okay? So going back, the memory that I remember my father at the courthouse was, I don't remember up to the point, but I do remember, girls, let's go in the bathroom, because he's sitting on the bench. And me being little, I didn't. So we all run in the bathroom, and the girls are the women who were supporting my mother, where the right terminology were today, and I can say this because this is me as a witness of it, were very catty. But it was just their way of handling the situation. I'm not saying my mother handled it wrong. That's not what I'm stating. What I'm stating is that women can become very, very catty. It's reality. It's the truth. We can be very, very catty, and we can be very, very mean. And that is sometimes the way to protect ourselves, or not knowing what the hell is going on. Or we're insecure. Insecure will be another one. Whoa, whew, that's a big one. And I had a lot of, yeah. I remember walking to the door, the bathroom door, and opening up, and there, I'm looking out, and I see my daddy sitting on the bench, and he's wearing his burgundy suit. And I thought, that poor man, my poor daddy, my poor papa by himself. And I look over, I go, guys, don't laugh. And this is what I'm thinking. That's Dad. And I always told myself I would never want to have anybody or any man to feel that way, to be mocked at or to be laughed at. Because it does take two. And there's a lot of factors, and that could be ranging from one individual could be just not in it, just is going down a different journey. Or it could be that other person could be a true narcissistic. Oh my goodness. Or there could be forms of abuse, and believe me, there are many, many forms of abuse, and sometimes they're not showing on your skin as being physical. It could be emotional, verbal, neglect, financial, sex. There's so much abuse that one is not able to come out because we're afraid. We're put in a situation where we're afraid, or we start believing what that individual's saying to us. It's sick. Then the next scene after my father sitting on the bench, I remember somehow the judge had stated we don't need the children here. So some of the individuals had taken us to a restaurant. My babies are with me. My chihuahuas and my babies. So, come here. The next scene is that we're in the restaurant, and I don't know, I think I remember Uncle Phil, and it came down to it where my mother shows up, and they're all hooping and hollering. And they said, we got full custody, we got them, their kids are, and I'm thinking at that time in my life of being a little girl, who's taking care of Daddy? And I'm going to remind you that during this time, he was disappointing me. I mean, there were times where there are many, many times where I was sitting on the front porch, and he would not show up. He wouldn't show up, and I'm thinking, am I not good enough? Was I not a good kid? Those are things at that age. I'm thinking to myself, what can I do differently? What can I do to make him love me? And that affected me all my life. What can I do differently for that person to love me? What can I do for that person to like me? What can I do? What can I change? How can I be for them? It started back then, and that is something that if any of you are fighting these kind of demons, is to recognize where your triggers are. They're triggers. And I'm going to be really sincere. A lot of this has came to a head to me after I had the auto accident in 2016. I read a book, Bait of Satan, and it turned my life around. I'm not here promoting. I'm not here to say go out and buy the book, but that book really changed my way of, it was my therapy. Do you want up there? Come here. Come here, Prentice. So, it was a book that I learned how to forgive. I learned to accept things that I did wrong. And I'm learning to reflect and look at it. And the big one is to accept blame and things that I've done wrong and grow from that. The word divorce has always been a yucky word in my mouth because of what had happened through growing up. My mother soon after that divorce remarried another individual, and I can honestly say to you, I have no respect for the man at all. None. Um, none. None soever. He was a true narcissist. And it's funny where, as men or women, when you marry, you sometimes are drawn to in things that you're wanting to change or fix. Or you're just drawn to because you're used to that behavior growing up. So that as growing up, that really messed me up as an individual. Low self-esteem, my body image, my pride within myself, learning was a big one. I can remember him getting on me because I did, and today I had a learning problem with comprehension and spelling. Going through all the different schools, and the fundamentals were different from different areas, and so I had some problems. I wasn't the fortunate one, and this was probably, I shouldn't say it like that, but I didn't have the opportunity to stay in one school. And that's one thing I wanted to make sure with my children, is that they maintained in the same school district or the same school throughout their whole life. I made sure. That's the key. And I want you to remember that. So when these vlogs come further down or opening up more, thinking, that is why Jay did what she did. It makes sense. It's because I didn't want them to have the same learning disabilities that I have because of the choices of my parents and step-parents had. I wanted my children to feel safe. I wanted them to live in the same house. Me moving multiple times, 12 times in 13 years. I knew how to move. So from there, him on me, and he was abusive, not physically. I can honestly say that he was not physically abusive. He was more mentally neglect also. He was not anything that was no sexual, nothing like that at all. I can put that out there. It's more of the narcissistic. He's just, it's, I can't even say his name. He was a racist. I can honestly say that he was a racist. True racist of all races. And I always always swore, I said that word wrong, always swore I will never ever be a racist. Never. It's disgusting in my opinion. So on that note, I don't know how long this vlog is. Probably about, anyway. So growing up and going through the whole childhood and going through the divorce with my mother and my father, and learning what were my triggers today, now learning what the triggers are, what happened to me in my past, are why I behave the way I behave. Okay? And I want you to think about that. I want you, if you're having some issues going through your divorce, it's tough. Divorce is not easy. Divorce is like a death. And it has different stages of healing. And you're not crazy. And it will take time. And I'm going to be honest, I made some really, really irrational decisions during that grieving time. And it wasn't good. I was not in the right, I was not spiritually okay. I was not mentally okay. It really affected me bad. The reason why I got divorced from my ex-husband was, for one, my son had asked me to leave his father. He goes, "You don't deserve to be going through this, Mom. You don't deserve this kind of abuse." Number two, my daughter came to me, and I knew of 3. She told me 2 different ones, so there's 5 affairs that he had. And boy, that can kick you in the gut. Kick you in the gut. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It makes you think, what did I do wrong? Was I not pretty enough? Was I not making you happy? Was I not doing what you were needing me to do? Was I not quieted enough? Was I the neglect was horrific. I can remember the hours that he would spend on the computer. I can remember the phone. I had issues, and I know why, but back then, I told him, if you ever went to a strip joint, it's done. It's done. And the reasoning behind that, so you understand, was I think we were married. If I remember, we were married. No, we weren't. No, we were not married. He had promised to take me out for a movie and dinner, and he was working for one of the airplane companies, building them there in the state of Kansas. And he had said, "Well, do you mind if I go out and have a beer with the guys?" "Yeah, go ahead, not a problem. It'll just be like an hour." "Okay." So an hour passed, 2 hour passed, and he goes, "We're going to another bar. It'll just be another hour, that's it, and then we'll go to the movies." Okay. And there's also, messages in there stating how beautiful you are and how much I love you, and I can't wait to be with you tonight. There was a lot of manipulating of the situation, and he didn't get home till 2 that morning. And come to find out, he had marker written on him, on his stomach. His underwear was ripped. He had gone to a strip joint, and I'm thinking, what do they have I don't have? I mean, they're much more prettier than I am. Believe me, they're stacked well better than I am. They probably don't give you any any attitude. So I always felt that was a threat, and I had to learn over the years. I had to learn, because I knew growing through the marriage, him looking at other women, I would be so insecure. I was so insecure. And I had to learn, you know what? You're going to do what you're going to do. This is how I'm thinking today. If you want to do that, just tell me. Just let me know. I don't want to deal with it anymore. And I'm okay if you want to go that direction, because don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. I'm okay. I'm confident enough to know I'm going to be okay. Back then, I didn't feel that way. And I see a lot of relationships where women get very loud and saying, "You're my man," or "You're my woman, you can't do that." And I'm thinking, whoa, step back. That is not a piece of property. Not at all. And I remember there's a night at a bar that I always loved the 80s, the dress up stuff like that. And I don't know if you remember back then, you know, the whole Miami Vice. I love wearing the white pants and the colorful tank top and the white blazer. And I loved wearing min ties. Loved it. And the shirt, the button-down shirt. That was very, very unique, if that's the right word to say. So we had gone out to a bar, and some guy had just flipped the tie. You know, I mean, if it was a situation where I felt attacked or I felt, you know, he did invade my space. Today, that would have been grounds of arrest. He came unglued. And there was a huge, he had taken me and put me where you go out by the bathrooms, and he had grabbed my neck and slammed my head against the wall. And there was a lot of physical. The police were called. Oh, it was nasty. 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 So, divorce. This vlog is not to point a finger at anyone, and I want to stress that. Okay? I don't know where I'm at on time. I am going to stop here, and I'm going to make a next one. And the next one is going to be why I stayed as long as I did. And different topics. So come back. That sort of gave you a background of why my childhood a little bit, and a little bit of before the marriage, before we even got married, and I was accepting this behavior. I wonder why. Come back. And the next one will be divorce. We love you. We'll talk to you soon. Because I'm a Jay with the fur babies. Yeah. If you have any questions, make a comment and look for the next vlog. It'll be coming right up after this one. We love you.